Welcome back. I hope you are feeling awesome. As a part of this video, we'll look into brief history of computers. Whenever we want to look into the history of the computers, somehow it goes back to abacus. What is abacus? Abacus is an abundant beats, addition, calculation, utility system. It was the first mechanical device used for the calculations. In fact, it is believed that Mesopotamians, somewhere in 3000 BC, invented this abacus. As you know, it has two parts, this part 1 and part 2. And we do have a beats which are there as a part of each of these rods. In a way, by using this, we can do the calculations. Then comes Jack the Vaucanson, somewhere in 1740s. He was a gifted French artist and inventor. He created a series of mechanical automations that simulated the life. One of the best remembered was digesting duck that had around 400 parts. He also worked on automating the looms, and he automated the loom in 1745. If we ask a question to you, who invented the computer, then I may sound silly, right? Yes, Charles Babbage is the one who invented the computer. So Charles Babbage was an English mathematician, engineer, philosopher, and also inventor. So he is the one who thought of a concept of a programmable computer and also ended up designing one. So what happened is, during his time, he has to do multiple calculations. So he was dependent on humans to do those calculations. He was really annoyed with the human errors, and he ended up designing a difference engine that could calculate the value of the polynomial functions. If you face a problem, try to find a solution for that. That is the life of inventors. Then Charles Babbage also worked on a general purpose analytical engine. He conceptualized the design. He went on working on the design until his death, that is somewhere in 1871. In case if the analytical design would have been completed, this would have been the first computer as we think of them today. So it would have been programmed by using the punch cards, included the features like sequential controls, loops, conditionals, and branching. Isn't it awesome? Somebody thinking about the control, loops, conditions, and branching in 1837. Imagine how high he was. Then came Augusta Ara Iron King, who was Countess of Lovelace. She met Charles Babbage in one of the demonstrations, and she really liked the work of Charles Babbage, and she created a program for the Babbage analytical engine, which would have calculated the Bernoullian numbers. She was one of the first programmer. Then many people contributed to the advancement of the computers. One of the significant contribution came from Alan Turing. He was a British mathematician and cryptographer. He is also regarded as father of theoretical computer science. His contributions include Turing machine, Turing test, and also he is the one who detailed the design of stored program computer. So what happened is, during the World War II, there were two parties. If you remember, German and Allies and rest of the world. So during that time, if you remember, radio signals were the mass mode of communication. The Germans were sending the signals to their allies through some code called Enigma code. So do you think rest of the world who is fighting the Germans, they need to keep quiet? No, they didn't. They have to decipher that code. So that is what they started doing. That is where our Alan Turing comes into picture. The British needed a mathematicians to crack the Germans' Enigma code. So what they did is, they roped in Alan Turing, and along with Alan Turing, they recruited few more people to decipher the Enigma code. So Alan Turing designed an electromechanical machine called the Bombay, which was so useful during the World War II. By using Bombay, the British were able to read all the daily German Enigma traffic. They deciphered that Enigma code, and it helped in advancing the war by a couple of years and also saving millions of lives. Isn't it interesting? It is. So there is a wonderful movie made out of this whole real life events. The name of the movie is The Imitation Game. I strongly request you to please watch this movie. It's a wonderful movie. It is based on some of the events which took place during the World War II, how Alan Turing contributed to building a electromechanical machine, which in a way led to the advancement of the computers. Somewhere in 1936, we have Conard, who also built the first freely programmable computer. But unfortunately, original prints were destroyed during the World War II only. That is the reason his contributions were not that much recognized. Later on, somewhere in 1944, Howard Aiken and Grace Hopper contributed to building of IBM automatic sequence control calculator. It was created by IBM for Harvard University, which is also called as Mark I. It was one of the first universal calculator during those times. Then one of the important milestone in the history of the computer, the first general purpose programmable electric computer was developed with the contributions of John Eckert and John Mackley. It was also called as ENIAC, that is electronic numerical integrator and computer. Look at this, you can see this, right? It contained over 17,000 vacuum tubes. It weighed 27 tons and almost drew 150 kilowatts of power to operate. Look at this massive thing. Can you imagine? Now you have a laptop which is so small as compared to this whole room, right? So we have advanced from so big a room of computers to having a computer in our hands. And somewhere in 1981, IBM PC is introduced with the Microsoft Disk Operating System, which was built by Bill Gates. Even though they built it, it was very, very expensive. For only 16 KB of RAM, they have to shell out $5,000 to $20,000 during those days. It was too expensive. That is when our Steve Jobs introduced the first successful consumer computer with a Windows icons mouse pointer interface. It was one of the first consumer computer with 128 KB RAM, which was reasonably afforded by common man. So many people have contributed to the advancement of the computers. What we have mentioned is only few of the contributions which are important. There are so many people who have contributed. We really salute all of them for their contribution to the advancement of the computer so that we can have a nice laptop with us now. Thank you.